covering music-related content of all genres. If it filters through Eastern Texas, then you know we are all over it, baby. From Texarkana to the coast, Dallas down to Houston, and everything in between, we are ETX ROCKS! Hello there, music lovers, and welcome to another great episode of the ETX ROCKS Show. With me as your host, Hayley McDaniel. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode, this brand new episode of the ETX ROCKS Show. I'm your host, Hayley McDaniel, and have I got a really cool artist for this episode for you. You guys are going to love this. She has been nominated for the new Female Vocalist of the Year at the Texas Regional Radio Awards twice, as well as Female Vocalist of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Miss Natalie Rose. Natalie, how's it going?
It's going really good.
Good.
I had a super busy weekend this week, so I might sound a little tired. We got back at, like 2 in the morning last night. It was actually an early night.
Wow.
Usually it's 5 in the morning we get back, but we had a wedding yesterday, so that was really fun to play.
Nice. Awesome.
So I'm a little tired right now.
That's okay. Hey, listen, I am too. And this weather, I don't know, you're in Seguin, Texas, right?
Oh, yep. It's been almost flooding down here, so.
Oh, wow. I hate to hear that. Yeah, it's just cloudy and kind of nasty, which, I get it. It's December. It's time for that, but still, it's not my favorite.
It's nice when you're inside and you're in bed. It sounds really nice inside, but when you have to go out and do errands and things like that, it's not so nice, Or when you're having a wedding and it's pouring down rain.
Oh my God. Was it outside?
It was originally, and they moved it inside. So.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, supposedly that's a good luck omen. So, just in case you ever have that happen again.
Well, it's funny because I've actually played I don't know if it's 2 or 3 now, but another wedding I played did the same thing. It poured down rain and they moved it inside. So
basically, you're like the good luck charm for brand new marriages. Like hire Natalie Rose to play your wedding. It'll rain and you'll be happily ever after, right? So that's awesome. Okay, so I'm not ashamed to say that I am a huge fan of your.
Thank you.
Music. I'm just super excited that Boston actually trusted me to not geek out and interview you. So I'm happy. So I think for everybody that's listening in, Natalie has. How can I ask how old you are? Is that completely inappropriate? Because you're young.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm 22.
Okay. Yeah.
I like when people ask me that because last night I had somebody come up and ask if I was 14. So
listen, when you hit 34, as I am, you'll be super excited if anybody goes under. But yeah, I can see how that's annoying. So guys, tuning in, if you are a fan of Texas country music, then you know who Natalie Rose is. She has made quite an entrance into the genre here in Texas, and she has had 4 singles on the Texas charts, which is incredible for female artists, especially. It's a little bit more difficult for us to get radio play. And so, but if you're not familiar with Natalie, here's a few interesting little tidbits for you. She has actually opened and played with Little Big Town or?
It was Van Perry.
Oh my God. See, I knew I was going to do that because I'm nervous, Natalie, and you're making me nervous.
Fine.
Okay. So the Van Perry and who else? Charlie Pride. Tell me, let's.
I opened for Gary Allen.
Oh my God.
The Van Perry and Gary Allen were both at the San Antonio Rodeo at the gala that they have every year.
Wow.
And so those are really lovely. I've opened for Ray Price twice, which I was, really honored that I got to do because, he was no longer with us.
Right.
And so it's, I have pictures with him from each time, and it was just really, it's something amazing that I'm not going to be able to forget because, he's not here anymore. A lot of singers aren't going to get that chance. And so I was really lucky to, be a part of a couple of his shows. So
that's incredible.
I also opened for Roy Clark, Rick Trevino, Kevin Fowler a couple of times, Wade Bowen, Cameron Nelson, Aaron Watson.
Wow. So basically everybody that's on my iTunes playlist right now. awesome.
Oh, and Ronnie Millsap, he was a fun one.
No way. Are you serious?
Mhm.
I love Ronnie Millsap. That's amazing. And when was that? And what show was that? Was it here in Texas
Um,
or outside?
I was 12 years old, and it was in Houston, Texas, at
Mm,
the Stafford Center.
unbelievable. Okay, since we're going to kind of take it back, since you brought that up, you have been, I mean, you were pretty much born to do what you're doing right now. Wouldn't you say? I mean, you've been on stage since what, 3 years old or something?
Yeah, I feel like it. Growing up, a lot of people would assume that my parents were pushing me to do this, and that's not it at all. My family was in the restaurant business, and I have five older siblings, and every single one of them are in the restaurant business. And then I come along, and I just, randomly go off in this other direction.
Wow.
And my mom said that when I was like 2 years old, that she took me to see a Disney movie. And my dad and my uncle, they always were into music. My dad used to be a drummer, and he played with Bill Haley and the Comments, Joey D and the Starlighters when he was younger. And so there's always been music in my family. But so we got home, and she said she was in another room doing something, and she hears like the theme song of the Disney movie being played on the piano.
No.
And she thought my dad had come home, and she walked out, and by then, I was like playing on the floor with a toy. And she was like, "Is your dad here?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "Who's playing the piano?" And I was like, "I was."
No
Like, it was just no
way.
problem. I had like picked out the theme by ear on the piano. And I was when I was like 3, I told her that I was going to be on the Grand Ole Opry, and she had no idea how I even knew what the Grand Ole Opry was.
Wow.
And she was like, and even if I had heard of it, she was like, "How do you know that you sing on it?" It was just something I said when I was like 3 years old.
That is incredible. So there has just always been music in your heart, not to sound like completely cheesy and cliche, but
Hmm.
it sounds to me like that is a true gift that's been given to you, and that's incredible, right? Do you feel any pressure from that? Or like
Um,
it's
a little bit, because I feel like if I don't succeed in this, I have no idea what I'm going to do.
well, you know, funny that you should say that because I'm a songwriter and I'm a part of a writing community that's based out in
Hmm.
Nashville. And one of the things, like one of my mentors is Clay Mills and Marty
Hmm.
Dotson. And they talk about like, if you're going to be in the music business, like if you're really going to do it,
Hmm.
you have to do it because you can't imagine doing anything else. So I think that you just summed up your life's, like your purpose, because you can't imagine doing anything else. So that's a good
Yeah, I
thing.
really can. I do other things as like hobbies that I've thought about like maybe pursuing if I don't make it in music, but at the same time I'm like, but I can't. I
Right.
have to focus everything on this. It's very difficult for me to even think about doing something else because all I want to do is music.
Well, good. No, yeah, don't. Anytime that kind of like creeps up into your mind again, just yeah, just push it back wherever it needs to go because
Because it's even, sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I need some extra money, and so I'm gonna like maybe I'll take my photography lessons, and I'll just start in that because I do a little photography as a hobby, but I don't, ever do it like professionally.
right.
So I was like, oh, maybe I'll just, kind of like um what's the word, invest in some of that, and maybe try to do that on the side. But then I'm like, but no, that'll take away from writing, and that'll take away from this, and it just ends up becoming like, ah, forget about it, like I'm just gonna keep on doing what I'm doing.
Well, I have to say I'm pretty glad that you have forgotten about. I mean, have a hobby, that's great, but no, you keep making music because that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Okay, so let's talk about. I want to dive into your first album. Can you tell
Okay.
everybody kind of the name of the album, who produced it? Because it's pretty impressive in itself. So, yeah, let us know what it is.
Well, the first album is it was called "Promise Me Beautiful," which is also one of the singles that was off the album,
Yeah,
and it was produced by Ray Benson at his studios in Austin, Texas,
Ray
and it has
Benson. Just in case everybody missed that, Ray Benson produced her first album. So continue.
and it has four singles, which are all the four singles that I released to Texas radio.
Hmm.
And it kind of started because me and my lead guitarist co-wrote two of the songs off the album. And the song "Promise Me Beautiful" was very interesting because when I was in Nashville when I was about 12, 13 years old, and I recorded like an original album up there, but I never really did anything with it. That was when I was like kind of starting out with the recording. I'm not with the recording process, but like with the promotional process and everything.
At 12.
And so, yeah, and we were new to that, so we didn't really know what we were doing. So we had these songs and we didn't know what to do with them. So that was kind of a big project that kind of just fell apart. But I was up there, and one of the songs that I liked that they showed me, that was written by some different writers, was called "Promise Me Beautiful." And I loved that song. It reminded me of Martina McBride, who is always one of my favorites, and really wanted to. So I don't know, I can't remember why, but I just decided not to do that song. But I
Wow.
had them send it to me, and I put it on like my iPod, and I would listen to it just all the time because
Mhm.
the demo was really great as well. And so all these years later, and my mom was saying like, you should really like record those songs that you wrote. And I was like, yeah, I want to, but I only have two, and I wouldn't know what else to add to the album or anything. And then I remembered that I had that song buried like deep in an email, and I was like,
Oh my
I think
gosh.
it's I think it's time to do that song now. And so I recorded this album when I was 17.
Mhm.
And so I had that song for like 5 or 6 years.
Mhm.
Well, I didn't have it. It was like, it was buried in the back of my mind, and I had the email with it all. And I was like, I'm gonna do that. So we emailed them, and we ended up doing that song. And so those three were "Lonely Home," "Better Off Without You," and "Promise Me Beautiful."
Mhm.
And then the song "Shivers" came about because we were originally going to record them each as singles.
Yeah.
And Ray Benson's son Sam, who was kind of one of the main overseers of all of the recording process, suggested that we add a fourth single to make it an EP. And so we were like, oh, we don't have another one. Like I wrote these two, and then the other one I've kind of had in my email. Like I don't have another song. And he said, well, I'm going to send you a couple that I think that you'll like. I think that would, sound good
Yeah.
for you. And so he sent me like three songs that night. Shivers was one of them,
Mhm.
and I learned it that night, and I recorded it the next day.
No way. Oh my
hmm
gosh. That's whoever wrote that song. Can you tell us the writers on Shivers?
Yes, there's a few different writers.
Okay.
I'm trying
Hate
to
to put you on the
remember.
spot. Sorry.
One of them was Sunny Helms, and she wrote "Oh Tonight" for the Josh Abbott
Yes.
Band.
Yeah.
Um, Another one, his name's Luke. I can't remember his last name off the top of my head.
Well, I'm going to get in trouble because my producer and the main hosts, Boston Chris and Louise, they are so
Mhm.
good at outlines, and I suck at them. So I can wing it. Like I do my research, but yeah, I should have done that. So, but I do want to. I have to say, like when you were telling the story about how "Promise Me Beautiful" came about, um, as a songwriter too, one of the things that you hear no so much when you're pitching and you're trying to get your music
Mhm.
heard. And my mentors, again, they say a song has its home, and when it's time for it to be recorded with that artist in its home, it will be. And so that's a "Promise Me Beautiful." That story is a perfect example of that. That was meant to be your song, just not its home. You know what I mean? That's really cool.
Mhm. And that was I had two songs that went up to number 25 on the Texas regional charts, and "Promise Me Beautiful" was one of those.
Oh, that's so cool. That's
And so it
awesome.
was just, and that's why I named the EP "Promise Me Beautiful." One, because the other songs really didn't fit for a title. And the other one is just that "Promise Me Beautiful" has like such the bigger backstory behind it
Oh, yeah,
that
absolutely.
and that doesn't even include like why they wrote the song. I don't know why they wrote the song, but just the backstory of the person who recorded it is like so elaborate that I could only imagine whatever inspired them to write the song would just add to it.
Well, being that you are currently writing for a new project, right?
Yes, I am. I have co-written two songs, I believe, and wrote one. No. I co-wrote one and I wrote two myself for the new project I'm working on.
Awesome. You might consider, reaching out to those songwriters of Promise Me Beautiful, because there might be a really cool message that you can, find some inspiration for, because it sounds like that song was meant for you in a few different ways, So I don't know, it might bring you some inspiration. I would love to hear what their backstory is too. That's awesome. So
Thank you.
you had your first single from Promise Me Beautiful album was Lonely Home. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, and it reached number 46. Now that was your first radio run in Texas, right?
Mhm.
That's incredible. 40, I mean, female artists, it's a lot harder. I mean, it's just a fact. I'm not saying anything bad about it, whatever about, the business at all, but it's just,
Mhm.
and they'll, promoters and radio people will be the first to tell you it's just harder for women to be played. So,
It definitely is.
do you agree with that, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely harder for females, and not even just in the releasing, but in the performing. I've
Hmm.
gotten flat out told by venues we don't hire female singers. Um,
Unbelievable.
and it's because they say like, oh well, women can't put on a show as much, or women
Hmm.
don't sell as much beer,
Hmm.
and all kinds of like they'll just go through like a whole list of reasons they won't hire a female singer. And I'm like, well, a lot of female singers have different styles. Like it's all country music, but you've got the ones that like to stand there in the long dresses and they strum slow love songs. And you've got the ones like me who like to wear like tight leather pants and heels and stomp all over the stage.
Heck
It's like
yeah.
there's all kinds of difference. You've got your Dolly Partons, you've got your Patsy Clines, you've got your
Yeah.
Reba McEntires, you've got your Taylor Swifts from the early beginning of her career. It's like you've got all kinds of country influences. Everybody's got their different influences, their different songs. And so I feel like sometimes if I have a venue has a bad experience with one female artist, it actually just ruins it for the rest of any other females who want to get in there.
I do feel like we're on the cusp of that being completely flip-flopped. I mean, you've got
Mhm.
mainstream acts like Maren Morris who came out of nowhere and proved them all wrong. You know what I mean? So I think, and you're a prime example of, somebody that can get on stage and you're just meant to be up there and you capture everybody's attention. And the second single was okay. No, first single was Lonely Home, and it reached number 46, which is incredible. Brand new female artist. To even break the top 100 is hard as it is. So, number 46 is great. Your second was Shivers, and that's actually how I came to know you and became a fan, was that song, and it reached number 25 on the Texas charts, and then it hit number 74 in the top 200 songs of the year. So that's amazing. How did that? What was your reaction to the reaction for Shivers?
I knew that song was going to do a little better than my others because that is the I kind of say that one reminds me of like a Little Big Town kind of style song,
Right,
just without all the harmony.
right.
But I did know that one was going to do just a little better in the Texas industry because all my other stuff were kind of like slow love songs, and then this one was going to be like like the fast tempo big one that was going to like come out, and so I knew that one was going to do a little better. I didn't expect it to do as good as it did because Lonely Home was number 46 for the first song, and then like Shivers comes out, and it just like I think I remember that it just like shot up the charts like
Hmm.
instantly, like within the first like couple of weeks, it just like kept going up, 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 like crazy. And I think I remember that was like um just incredible. That like every week it would be like up way more, not just like one spot or two spots, like it would just like shoot up, and it was really crazy.
So when you saw that it was number 25, I mean, were you just like, okay, was that confirmation for you? Was that a little bit of like, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Was that,
Hmm.
because there's a lot of work that goes into promoting a single.
Hmm.
And so talk about that a little bit. Did that give you a little bit of validation?
Yeah, it definitely did. My promoter was Dylan Steen for all four of my singles, and he did a great job on every single one of them.
Yeah. I actually,
And
I talked to Dylan before these interviews. I interviewed
mhm,
a couple other artists that he's promoting, and he was sick as a dog. He was on like cough and cold medicine, so he's
mhm.
it was a funny conversation. But he had some really fun and nice things to say about you. So he thinks a lot of you too. Anyways, go ahead.
And the radio tour for Shivers was really fun because it was ironically like right in the middle of like the cold weather,
Oh,
and um, we almost I forgot. We were almost supposed to, I think we were supposed to be driving through snow at one point, but it got canceled because of the weather getting too bad. So we ended up turning around and coming back home. Um, it was like, right in like the freezing rain. It was just cold.
wow.
Um, Ironically, for a song called Shivers. And so, I just remember like we were all like bundled up, like I'm talking like thermals and the big heavy coats, like while you're in the car. And
Yeah.
that one was a crazy road trip.
That's perfect though. And like you said, it ties in perfect with the title. It's not in case, 50 years down the road, you're like, oh, I wish I could remember my radio tour. You'll always remember Shivers because you were
Yeah.
freezing. That's perfect. So the third single off of the Promise Me Beautiful album was Promise Me Beautiful, and it hit number 25 as well. That is awesome. Um, Now, I personally think that it should have been a lot higher than that. Um, but I mean, I do feel like everything happens in perfect timing. So
Hmm.
I have no doubt in my mind that the new material that you're working on and the material after that and the album after that is going to continually show you um, where you're supposed to be on the charts. And you're going to end up having not just a Texas country number one, but I truly believe that you're one of those that has the potential to break through to mainstream country. And so
Hmm.
I want to talk a little bit more about this new album. Now, I was trying to get some info from Dylan, and he was very hush hush. He's like, "Well, I'll let Natalie tell you if she wants to tell you." That was funny. Like he was kind of being joking, but
Hmm.
can you talk a little bit about the songs that you've written?
Um, yes, I can. I'm working on a new EP. It's being produced in Nashville by Dolly Parton's producer, Mr. Kent Wells. And
So crazy. That's awesome. He, he plays for Dolly too, right? He plays in the band.
hmm
That's awesome.
Yeah, he is her lead guitarist as well.
So cool.
And I'm not sure, I haven't heard back from him, but I might see him this Thursday when Dolly plays in San Antonio.
No way.
I might be going to see the concert, and I might be meeting Dolly
No.
backstage
Are you?
with my producer.
No way.
Um, so I'm not sure yet. We messaged him a while back, and he was gonna he was gonna do that for like it was like a late birthday present or an early Christmas present from a friend of mine who messaged him or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, because I've been working with him on the album, and so like my friend messaged him and was like, "Hey, Natalie's birthday or Christmas is coming up," and so she kind of like asked about that, and so he agreed.
Wow.
And but he's been super busy lately, and I think his oldest son who just got married, they were on their honeymoon, and it was like in the cabin. And unless I'm mistaken, I think it was his son, or it could have been his son's friend. Um, I'm trying to get the story right. I really believe it was his son though. But in all those wildfires, the cabin caught
Um,
fire and they barely made it out.
no way.
So yeah, so he's had a very hectic week with all the concerts and that going on. So we haven't heard back from him yet as kind of like a confirmation.
Okay.
Um, but it's on Thursday, so I don't have plenty of time to like hear back from him.
Of
So
course. That's incredible though. I mean, to meet Dolly Parton, I mean, you've met so many awesome people. It's just another it doesn't seem like it's just another artist to you though, because it seems like you have a lot of passion and respect for those that have paved the way. And so what are you going to say to Dolly Parton? Like how do you
I have no idea because I have my little like bucket list of who I absolutely have to meet.
Mhm.
And I've already checked off Martina McBride. I got to
Oh,
meet her.
wow.
And so the other ones on the list are Dolly Parton. And so if I meet her, I can check that off. And the other one would be Reba McEntire.
Mm,
And so hopefully I can meet her one day. The other two that would be on my list if they were still here would be Selena Quintanilla and Patsy Cline. But,
wow.
I can't meet them.
Yeah.
So,
In a different life, right?
mhm.
That's I love your list of your influences. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's
And so, when I met Martina, though, I thought I was going to be a lot better, but as soon as like, they kind of had her like the entrance of the room, you looked straight at like a curtain kind of thing. And on the other side of the curtain, she was there, and that's when they took the pictures. And so I was fine, like, until I actually saw her, and then I started
Mm.
crying.
Oh
So,
gosh, that's perfect. I love it. That's good. That's I mean, you're a true fan. It's awesome. So what did she say? Was she? I'm sure that happens to her quite a bit, like but
um, well, I was kind of like I started crying like while I was in the line to meet her, and because Ray Benson actually got me those, so actually like thanks to both of my producers, I'm like able to meet two of my idols.
wow, that's incredible.
Um, but a friend of mine, his name is he's General Leroy Sisco.
Hmm.
He's one of the ones that gives away the homes to the Wounded Warriors with George
Yeah,
Strait.
yeah.
He was giving away a home that night with Martina McBride, and so he was actually there. And so when I went up to take my picture and meet her, I couldn't like get any words out whatsoever. And he kind of like came over and was like, "Oh, Martina, I've known this lady since she was like 10 years old. She's amazing, and this is her album." And like gave her one of my
Mm,
albums, and just kind of like talked to Martina about me while I was standing
no,
there, like
no.
because I couldn't even like say hello. Like I was like my voice was gone like in that instant.
Oh, that is the perfect like meet your idol story. So where you just don't even have to say anything. Somebody comes over and like leads the conversation, and she listened to that album, right? I bet she was blown away. That's awesome. Really cool. How often do you get to Nashville, and do you go strictly to record, or are you writing there as well?
Right now I'm strictly there to record. I've had just 3 Nashville trips so far, two when I was about 12, and the one recently, and I recorded about 6 songs up there.
Wow.
And I have to. I'm either going to possibly leave it at 6 songs and just do another EP, and then
Mhm.
maybe go back another time, or I will be going back soon to finish it. It depends on what else I have going on at the time.
That is so
Because
exciting.
I have some like other exciting news for 2017 that I can't talk about. And it's kind of like completely thrown everything else like aside.
Wow.
And so
How about a hint? Like a really like not just a little hint, not a big hint. Anything? No? No, that's okay.
nah, probably
Not
not. I'm under a contract, so
okay, yes, all right. Well, I don't blame you. That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear what that is. And the fact
and
that
it's
that you just mentioned that you might be adding on to your uh, either make the EP or an album. There are so many songwriters that listen to this, so I
mhm.
would be shocked if like you get a million emails with pitches. So just
Yes, I would be looking for more songs as well.
oh really?
Because I do write my own, but at the same time, I'm so busy all the time that it's really hard to sit down and write. Like today, I had an alarm set at, like 10:30 this morning just so I could be up and moving and stuff by the time the interview happened, and slept right through the alarm.
Bless your heart.
And so, it's just so many things going on that it's like I get home really late and then I sleep all day the next day, and then between like running errands and doing shows, and it's just my weeks are so full that by the time I sit down to write, it's like I'm tired, I'm just gonna go take a nap.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I would be looking for other songs.
That's
But
interesting.
so far I went up and I recorded 6 songs. One of them I kind of have to go back and re-record because when I recorded this song there was nothing wrong with the content of the song. But there's one little line, and the song was written, a long time ago. A lot of songs take forever to find,
They're
the writer,
home.
the people
Yes.
who record them.
Mm-hmm.
And so this song had mentioned the rebel flag in it.
Uh-oh.
But other than that, it is a absolutely wonderful song. It's all about like Texas, and it's called My South. And
Oh.
I would say it's like Gretchen Wilson. It's pretty rocking. It's pretty strong. I was super excited to record this song, but it was kind of like, My South is like potatoes, tomatoes, and it kind of goes into like different things. It's like My South is a
Mhm.
double barrel shotgun, and it kind of just goes into all this stuff. And at one point it says there's a rebel flag waiting kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and when I did this song, it was not in any sort of, light whatsoever.
yeah.
And then all the, the chaos kind of happened. And so I will be um, either going back or just kind of doing it here in a studio and sending it up, but I will be changing that something to something about the American flag.
There you go. I mean, it's funny too because not to completely get on some sort of
And it was so hard about that because I had to message the songwriter and I was like, hey, like that one song, I don't know if you remember, but there was this line, is it possible that I could just re-record it and change it? So she was working on a couple of different things to say. Because when they wrote that song, nothing had happened with that controversy.
yeah.
So but that's like the song that I'm most excited about.
I can't wait to
It's
hear it.
and then there's a another one written by the same artist, same writer. Well, she is an artist. She does perform um, with a different co-writer, and it's called "There's a Waylon."
Oh my
And
gosh. I love it. Say no more. That's perfect.
and it's a great song. That's another one that we're excited to release. It's the hook on it is where there's a Willie, there's a Waylon.
Oh my gosh. That how have I not written that song yet? That is like the sign of a truly great hook or song or title when a songwriter hears it and they're thinking like, "Dang, how have I not written that yet?" That's a perfect title.
Because
That's
it's
awesome.
it's a play on, where there's a will, there's a way, and it's like
Absolutely. Willie,
it's so genius. Where there's a Willie, there's a Waylon. It's so genius.
now I'm kind of pissed. I'm like, I should have written that. That's great. Can't wait to hear it. So, um, your first album was recorded when you were 17 and you're 22 now. And I mean, anybody that has lived through that age gap can tell you that there's a lot of life and a lot of experience that goes in between those years from 17 to 22. So,
hmm
do you feel like your sound has kind of shifted in any way? And if it has, what can we expect to hear that's going to be a little bit
Um,
different?
I would say my sound has shifted a tiny bit, but at the same time, I would say that it hasn't. Um, what I would honestly say is that I've kind of always felt this certain, um, not persona, but just, kind of who I am as a performer, like deep down inside. And I just was never able to like fully pull that out.
Hmm.
And it was really funny because I always saw myself as like two people. I saw myself as Natalie Caporelli, which is my full name.
Hmm.
My middle name is Rose. And when I'm on stage, I see myself as Natalie Rose. And
Hmm.
it's almost like they're both truly parts of me. It's not like I'm faking a persona. They're both truly parts of me, but one
Hmm.
I prefer to live on stage and one I prefer to live at home.
Yeah.
And like Natalie Caporelli at home, it's like, okay, I like to read, I like to write poetry, I like to just, uh, sleep and listen to like yoga music and it's like Natalie Caporelli at home is like nothing like Natalie Caporelli on stage.
She's not wearing
It's
leather
like
pants.
yeah, and
Yeah.
like Natalie Rose on stage is like when my personality does come out and I'm like,
Mm.
okay, it's almost like, when people get ready to go have fun for the weekend and then,
Yeah.
they wear like their best clothes and they go out. It's kind of the same thing for me. It's when I'm on stage, it's like, okay, that's, my time to like bring myself out a little bit.
Love it.
And so, the Natalie, Rose on stage is, I think now it's who she really is
Yeah.
because before it was another thing is I always was very, very shy. When I got on stage, I wasn't, and I could, sing, and I didn't have stage fright. Um, but I was also too shy to like move on stage a little bit. It's like I would
Mhm.
walk around and stuff like that. Um, I've moved around and like entertained since I was like 12, but at the same time, I kind of had some insecurities about it, and I was like, no, I might look stupid, and just like typical teenage
Yeah,
feelings
like,
when you're
yeah,
growing up, and you're like, it's like, oh, I know I should be walking around and like pointing at people and like having a great time, but at the same time, I don't want to look stupid. That was like a
yeah.
big part. Is when you're like teenager, you're like, I don't want to look dumb,
Well, I'm glad you grew out of that
and so
early
I've
because it takes a
I've
lot
kind
of
of
us a lot longer, just by the way.
hmm
Some people struggle with that like forever, so that's good.
hmm and so just watching other concerts from the big stars, it's like sometimes I would see stuff that I actually do and I'm like, "Oh, hey, that doesn't look stupid after all." Because I'm watching them do it and I'm like, "Oh, I'm excited. This is great." And then I'm like, "Oh, I do that." Like, okay, I don't have to be insecure about it because
Right.
apparently it's a thing.
It's a thing. I love it. That's awesome. That
And
reminds
so
me of is Miranda Lambert. There's a lot of interviews and stuff with her family and then herself about her adolescence and stuff that she was very meek, very shy, very, almost introverted. And then,
Mhm,
I mean, you look at her on stage and I mean, commands a stadium of tens of thousands of people.
mhm.
And I think that's a mark of an artist, honestly, that you have both of those abilities to tap into whenever you need to.
Yeah, and so I would definitely say maybe my music taste hasn't shifted,
Yeah,
but definitely my stage presence I think has almost come to a full bloom.
good.
But I would say that it is still getting better. There's always, changes that are made. There's always new things I learn to do with my voice. There's always new songs I want to sing and new words I want to write. And
Right.
um, so I don't ever like to say that anything is like fully mastered because you always continue learning like throughout your whole life.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to go over as far as 2017 and things that you
Um,
tell us?
yeah.
I know you can't tell us a
Um,
lot, but.
well, some of the other songs on the album, one of them, uh, I wrote, or two of them I wrote myself, and one of those is called "The Rain."
Mm,
And I wrote that song for my Uncle Jim on my dad's side, and my grandmother on my mom's side, and my grandparents on my dad's side, who all passed away. Um, my grandparents on my father's side passed away when I was 5 and 6 years old.
mm,
And so I was really, really close to my grandfather. And, um, for a long time, I always wanted to write a song, and I just never really could find the right words. And then my uncle on my dad's side passed away, and I was very close to him as well. And um, my grandmother on my mom's side passed away, and my uncle and my grandma both passed away from lung cancer.
oh, wow.
And so it was raining one night, and I got my guitar out, and I was just kind of playing around with like three different songs, and all of a sudden I just kind of I went to sleep, and the next morning it was like I just had an idea when I woke up, and I sat
Mhm,
down and I wrote it down. And so I wrote this song for them, and it's really amazing to me because my Uncle Jim's favorite song was "I Will Always Love You" by Dolly Parton,
mhm.
and I got to record the song that I wrote for him with Dolly's producer, and so
Oh, man. I,
and so it's really something incredible to me.
yeah, it completely just left me speechless. I'm usually not like that. I can say, but full circle. That's wow. That's meant to be. That's incredible. I can't wait to hear it. So what's the other title of the one that you wrote by yourself?
The other one I wrote by myself is called Conformity,
Mm,
and I would say this one's a lot like Better Off Without You,
hmm.
which is another one that I had co-written on with my guitarist. Um, Conformity was another one that I just woke up. I always thought I did my best writing at night, but lately all my songs have just like as soon as I wake up, it's like, okay, I have an idea, write it down. Um, and Conformity is just kind of a song I wrote out of a little bit of frustration. Um, because growing up, I was born and raised in Seguin, Texas, and I did not go to the public school here. I was homeschooled, and then I went to a private school in a town nearby.
Mhm.
So I wasn't really known in like the high school circuit. I wasn't on a cheerleading team. I wasn't, I wasn't in a public school setting where like hundreds of kids knew me.
Right.
Um, and so it was really hard for my to get my own town to support me growing
Mm.
up because they had no idea who I was. And it's pretty ironic because the radio station here in Seguin has not ever played my songs
What?
ever. Yeah.
Wait.
Um,
Any
but
songs, any of the 4 that were on the charts were never played in Seguin?
no.
Wow, Seguin, we gotta change that, guys. If anybody's listening from there, shame, shame.
And so I have had a little bit of luck recently, but a long time growing up, I didn't really get a lot of support in Seguin.
Mhm.
But just recently, and it's funny, it's actually like after I wrote the song Conformity, I
Hmm.
started getting a little bit of support. So it's really funny. But I
And that
wrote
hasn't been
Conformity.
released yet. That's it, even
No.
funnier. Yeah.
But it's really funny because another thing was that I kept getting a little stressed out at one point because I kept feeling like when I said that I kind of have now fully come out on stage and it's like
Mhm.
now I'm Natalie Rose, I know who I am. There was a time when I was like, should I dress like the other female country singers? Like, should I wear baseball hats and my boots and denim shorts? Like,
Right.
should I put away all my like my Reba McEntire brand leather boots and should I put
Oh.
away all of my, my tight pants that I like and
Mhm.
my, you know, it's almost like it's like a flirty gothic style that I have. It's not gothic, but it's just kind of like I
It's
like
you. It's
it,
you.
it's I would say it's kind of like what Reba would wear on stage
Yeah.
a little bit is like what I kind of tend to like. And so I was like, maybe maybe I should dress like the other country singers because it's working for them. And so I went through a little bit of a phase where I was like a little uncomfortable because I would be wearing like baseball hats and shorts and things on stage to try to fit into the Texas scene a little more. But at the same time, it wasn't truly me.
Mhm.
And so I kind of felt like, well, maybe I don't belong in the Texas scene because I don't dress a certain way and because I don't sing a certain way. And so I kind of went through this little phase of like self-doubt and it's like, well, I was born and raised in Texas. I sing country music. Like, no,
Yeah.
I fit in the Texas scene, but at the same time, I was like, no, you have to look a certain way and you have to dress a certain way. Like your hair has to be blonde. You have to wear denim shorts. Like and I ended up frying my hair
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
because I tried to go blonde and my hair was down to my waist and I had to cut it into a small pixie cut. And so that was like a wake up call like no, 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 just be yourself, like don't try to fit into what everybody else is doing.
And doesn't it feel better? Don't you feel like empowered? Like, okay, I don't need to be like anybody else. If anything, the Texas scene needs a Natalie Rose. I mean, that we've got plenty of the long blonde denim shorts. I mean, I want some Natalie Rose in Texas.
And I'm kind of using it to turn around to kind of like tell maybe other
Yeah,
girls that are growing up in the Texas industry like you don't need to follow a certain like performance. Like if you don't like to sing slow love songs, don't sing slow love songs. If you like that, then don't feel like you have to be Little Big Town.
yeah,
If you like to wear like leather pants and high heels and things like Carrie Underwood or Reba would wear, then like you go all glam, like you wear
yeah.
what you want. But I had kind of gone through a little self-doubt phase where I was like, well, maybe I should just like change up my whole like performance and all of my songs and
Wow.
and it was kind of a moment that's why I wrote Conformity
Hmm.
because it was kind of getting a little bit of that frustration out because in the song, some of the words are I don't know where I'm going, I don't know who I am. It's hard to find yourself when you don't know where you've been. And that's how the song opens up. And then the chorus is like, I was born in this town and I'm gonna die here too. Places like this just pull the life right out of you. You just become another face out in the street. Um, You lose your sense of self and all originality. You're just another canvas painted by conformity, is how the
Mm.
song goes. And so it was just written, and it's kind of like a Randy Rogers. It's kind of like my song Better Off Without You. It's a little more like, it's got like, it's done in like minor chords, but it's
Yes.
kind of upbeat.
Yeah.
And so It's a good two-step kind of song.
Yeah, oh gosh. And the message is great. And not just in the music industry. I mean, every woman, every teenager, every 30-year-old, every 40-year-old, it doesn't matter who you are. We've all felt that way at some point in time. So I think that it'll end up reaching a lot of ears in a very, very positive way. That's really good.
And I hope so. When I did the song Better Off Without You, I did get a lot of people um write back to me and say like, oh, it helped them like through this, or it helped
Mhm.
them like through a breakup, it helped them through a divorce, it helped them through this and that, and so it was really crazy to get to hear back, you know, all that kind of feedback from
Yeah.
people.
And at the end of the day, I mean, the charts, that's great. We all want some sort of success and in that regard. But at the same time, if you're really passionate about your music, it really does come down to reaching people and touching people's lives.
Hmm.
So that's to me, that's every bit of validation that you're exactly where you need to be. That's awesome.
And so, so the song Conformity, I've recently started getting some newspaper articles in the Seguin newspaper.
Hmm.
I was just on the cover of a Seguin magazine,
Nice.
and so I've had a little bit of luck. And I've had people tell me like, well, it's just because you didn't go to public school. They don't know who you are. They didn't even know like you lived here until all this like other stuff happened, like until like word of mouth started getting around that you were a singer that was playing around San Antonio and other places and you were from Spain. They didn't know who you were. And at the same time, it was still that, that self-doubt of like, you know,
Hmm.
sadness because it's taken so long. Like I've been singing and performing since I was like 4 years old, and it's taken me until I'm like 22 to actually get recognition in my own hometown.
Yeah.
And so it was a little sad for a while. And then after I wrote that song and I kind of just let out those frustrations of like, okay, maybe I need to dress this way to be noticed, and maybe I
Hmm.
need to sing these songs to be noticed. And, you know, then it kind of like suddenly, became a little more like known in my own hometown. And it kind of makes me feel good. It's like I don't regret writing the
Good.
song because at the time those were my honest feelings.
Absolutely.
And so now it's like I'm very grateful that my own hometown is starting to take a little more notice.
Hmm.
Um,
So, Natalie
oh, thank you.
Rose, thank you. I can't tell you how inspired and happy I am with this interview, and hearing your passion has just relit some passion in me. And I just really appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk with us at
Well,
ETX
thank you.
Rocks.
Thank you
So,
for having me.
oh yeah,
Um, Another real quick thing is when I was saying about after conformity, how I was like, no, like I had like a little bit of realization. I got told one time recently
uh-oh.
by somebody up in Nashville, and he
Mhm.
told me, how there's the quote like dress for the job you want, not the job you have kind of thing.
Yeah.
It kind of falls under that because he said something like, um, he said, dress, you know, whatever you want to be, whether you want to be like top of the charts in Nashville, number one in the world in country music, or if you want to stay and be just a local, Texas small town girl, whatever your dreams are,
Hmm.
whatever your passion is,
Hmm.
dress for that dream. He said if your dream is to wear solid glitz and rhinestones on stage,
Right.
then don't dress in denim and boots because you'll never get to that dream of the glitz and glam if you keep holding yourself back.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and so that's something that I would probably encourage some of the other Texas females if they truly like wearing boots, because I have my Western boots. I wear them, a lot. I,
Right.
I I dress like that a lot too.
Yeah.
But sometimes on stage, I'm like, no, I want to wear like 6-inch heels and I'm gonna tease my hair and I'm gonna
Love it.
be, yeah. And so I'm definitely like that kind of performer,
Yeah.
but I know that I was always feeling pressured to dress a certain way because of what everybody else was wearing.
Yeah.
So I would say that if there's any other female singers in Texas, whether they're on the charts right now or they're just starting out, if you're dressing in denim and boots because you feel like you have to, don't. Like, if you love it, then go ahead and do that. But if you're deep down feeling like that's not you, then don't feel pressured to dress that way.
That's a perfect message. Thank you so much for sharing that, because there's probably a lot that need to hear it. And that probably relates to the type of music that they sing too, right? Like, don't
Hmm.
change your style. If you're a honky tonkin' freaking crazy woman, then do that all the time. Don't like conform to, whatever else. Somebody tells you that so and so had a hit with this, so you should try to write, about girls and
Hmm.
pickup trucks. I don't know. Like,
And another thing is, don't take like no for an answer. When I
crazy.
had my EP in my hands and we were looking for a promoter, I went to several different promoters and they all told me, no, none of these songs will do good on the Texas charts. They told me like,
Oh
um,
gosh.
yeah, they told me like, no, Shivers won't work, and Promise Me Beautiful won't work, and Lonely Home won't work. I got told by like a few different promoters that none of my songs would work, and then I found Dylan, and I've had 4 top 50s on the Texas charts. So that's another thing, is don't get discouraged if you're taking your music to a promoter or you're trying to find an agent or something, and they tell you no, that it won't work, because their word isn't the only word.
Thank you.
There's
Mhm.
lots of other people, because I've always gotten told too, like, oh, if something doesn't work in Texas, it'll work in Nashville. If something doesn't
No,
work in Nashville, it'll work in Texas.
no.
And it's not, sometimes it'll work in both
Mhm.
because, and sometimes, maybe it won't work in neither because it's, way too obscure and you can't find the right person to promote it to whatever chart it needs to be promoted to.
Right.
But a lot of times, do not take like no for an answer, because while there's somebody who closes their door, there's another person with an open door that's ready to take you in. So,
Amen. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to talk to you, Natalie. You are wise beyond your years, and I cannot wait to see what the next year has to hold for you. I think you're going to do some really amazing things. When can we expect this new album to be released? Do you guys have a date yet?
I do not have an official date because I'm still deciding if I'm just gonna do another small
Mhm.
EP or if I'm gonna try to add about 6 more songs.
Yeah.
Like I said, I am looking for other songs. If I find enough before, like February or March or
Mhm.
something, then I may do a full album. If I don't, then I'll probably just stick with a smaller EP again.
Yeah, well, Songwriter friends, you heard it first here. Texas star Natalie Rose is looking for songs. And by the way, I'm probably going to just send you my entire catalog. So I'm just kidding. I'll send only the best, I promise. But so, Natalie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me, and stay in touch. We want to hear, we want to be a part of the journey, and we want to help shine a light on you as you go through that journey. So, stay in touch with us here at ETX Rocks. We would really appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Okay, great. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of ETX Rocks with the one and only, the very talented Natalie Rose. Thanks for tuning in, and ETX Rocks. Covering music-related content of all genres. If it filters through Eastern Texas, then you know we are all over it, baby. From Texarkana to the coast, Dallas down to Houston, and everything in between, we are ETX Rocks.